Hey everyone, welcome back to 20 Somethings, where we aim to create an honest guide on figuring shit out.
Today, we wanted to kick off a new 3-part series on the job search, where we take you through the process of how to find a job from start to finish. Number 1, set yourself up for success. Number 2, set your direction and start the application process. And number 3, set up and run your system.
So just for some quick background, I was a communications major at UCLA. I had different internships in entertainment, and after a stint in the media agency world, I am working at Disney now.
For myself, I also went to UCLA as a pre-med major, and after pursuing medicine and doing a little bit of research, I decided to pursue my curiosities in the entrepreneurship world and started working at tech startups. And currently, I'm now at Notion.
We all know the ups and downs, especially the downs of job hunting. It can often be a really long and discouraging process. And job hunting in and of itself is also a job, right? So it's really important to run a tight ship when kicking off your job search.
So the first point we want to make is getting comfortable with rejection. So let me tell you this, you will get rejected a lot, and it's all a part of the game. There have been many times where Amy and I both, went to final rounds for companies that we were really excited for. And at the very end, got rejected, but that's totally fine. It happens. I like to tell myself, take a day to sulk and be upset, but the next day you gotta move on, because the only thing that you can control is your ability to take action. And that's really important during the job process.
Choose 1 or 2 positive people in your life and include them in your job search, because rejection can get discouraging pretty fast. I personally have 2 go-to friends that are my boosters, I guess. We encourage each other when we're burning out, but we also help each other, like how to craft follow-up emails or what are our favorite questions to ask at the end of the interview. The second thing that's really important is resetting the power dynamic. When you're interviewing for your first job out of college or any job in general, it's really normal to feel like the company you're interviewing with has all the power. But we want to encourage you to rethink this dynamic and level this power dynamic back towards you. So remember, an interview goes both ways. And if you have any gut feelings, for instance, that come up during the interview, it'll likely come up again and again when you're actually working there in the role. So even if the job sounds perfect, make sure that the company culture and the people that are there check out, and trust your gut.
The third point we really want to make here is creating and riding that momentum all the way through the end of your job search. And this is important in 2 ways. The first way is your internal momentum. We already mentioned this, but let me say again, this process can be pretty discouraging. So it's that much more important to cast a wide net, apply to as many places as you can, because that elicits a faster feedback loop, right? The more applications you apply, the more interviews you'll get and the more practice you'll get in. And it actually really helps with that motivation. The second way is external momentum. So it's pretty important to end with more than 1 offer at the same time. And the reason for this is that this actually becomes one of your biggest leverage points from the candidate's point of view. You can negotiate your pay, but this can also make the other company more accommodating to your own timeline. Another reason why this is important is so that you don't need to start your job search all over again if you're not exactly happy with the offer that you ended up with, but you have no other interviews in your pipeline.
So the second point of our video is to set your direction and start the application process. Even though you sometimes can't connect the dots looking forward, you can always try your best to be proactive about how you want to move forward. A great way to do that is to gather information and learn from others before you start your process. And here are 3 points to help you set that direction up. So the first step is gathering information and checking your assumptions. So take informational interviews. They're a great way to learn about the job that you're interested in. There's only so much you can learn from all your Google searches and reading countless job descriptions. Before you even start applying to jobs, maybe reach out to people who are doing what you're interested in, right? They probably can provide the best take on the job.
So Amy makes a great point here, because sometimes we think we're interested in something, but we're really not. And it's just because our peers are getting into it. So for example, for me, when I was first coming out of college and decided I didn't want to pursue medicine anymore, one of the things that I considered was consulting, because everyone was doing consulting. But I soon realized that after doing my research and talking to people, like that really wasn't for me. And had I not done those informational interviews, I wouldn't have known that. Here are 2 ways to go about informational interviews. So the first way is the super obvious way, which is ask friends, ask family, past coworkers, or even past classmates. And even though they directly won't have the role or aren't in the field that you're interested in, chances are they know someone who does. So really, most often I've seen that the biggest blocker here is actually yourself, because you're afraid to ask. So the second way to find informational interviews is to go on LinkedIn and look for job postings that you're interested in. See if you have any first or second degree connections, and that's great information because you know exactly who to reach out to. So if it's a first degree connection, then that's great. You can reach out to that person directly. If it's a second degree connection, see who that mutual person is and ask if they'd be willing to make an intro. Always make sure that you're very specific with what you're asking for. What is the role? What specifically do you want to know? And always let them know, like, hey, if you're not comfortable giving this intro, if you don't actually know that person very well, that's totally fine. I just thought it wouldn't hurt to ask. And whenever I approached this with this kind of cadence, I found that it worked pretty well. However, let's say that you really want to connect with someone who you have absolutely no connections with. I actually landed a few interviews just by cold emailing the right person, whether that was a recruiter or someone higher up in the company. So never be afraid to just send a cold email via LinkedIn or just searching for their email address, because you never know if they will respond back.
So referrals are also really important, and they're actually one of the more effective ways to land an interview versus applying directly. I actually got the role I'm in right now through a referral, and it just shows that sometimes your application is often expedited, or you might even be in a different queue entirely. That said, there are some important referral etiquette to keep in mind. The first is that the person you're reaching out to is not there to help you find a job. Make sure that you, number one, have an open position that you're actually interested in and to an extent qualified for. I can't tell you how many times someone has reached out to me saying that they really want a job at Disney, but they haven't even looked at the job listings, right? And even for a recruiter, they're not there to find you a job. They're there to match you to the best available job, and vice versa. Another thing that I personally like to do when I'm asking for a referral is to give them an option and a way out. I never want to corner the person that I'm asking for help, so I'll always caveat I know it's a different location or it's on a different team, so no worries if you can't give me a referral. No pressure. So this all being said, make sure to check out our guide for places to look for when you're job hunting. We will also add resources and databases on companies who are still recruiting during COVID, particularly in the tech and media field.
The last point we want to mention is setting up and running your system. Looking for a job can feel like a job in itself, so it's that much more important that you manage your time and stay organized.
Like Jenny said, running a tight ship is important in order to keep your momentum going without missing a beat. Job hunting is, in a way, kind of similar to closing a deal. So first, keep applying and filling the funnel. You can only close deals if you have that funnel filled, right? So remember, to an extent, job hunting is a game of statistics.
To give you a real example, here are some stats of my most recent job search about a year ago. So as you can see, I applied to 21 companies, but got 2 offers. And that's a lot of rejection throughout the process, but I still really consider that a success.
So the second is that as you start getting interview requests, both organization and prioritization are key to ensure that you don't miss a beat and always have upcoming interviews. So, for example, take-home assessments are becoming a natural part of any interview process. The likelihood of you getting multiple assessments is pretty high. You want to make sure that you have enough time in order to put the effort required. Balancing these different deliverables means prioritizing them in order of urgency and importance. So, keeping track of different due dates, as well as prioritizing the ones that you're more interested in. And the third, following up. You've done a bulk of the work here applying and interviewing, but you want to make sure to close the loop. This means first thanking the people that have interviewed you, and then to also follow up with the recruiter and keep tabs on where you're at in the process. Even if you don't land the opportunity, it's always nice to find closure, and sometimes you won't get that until you follow up. We know this is a lot, so we've also created a separate template on organizing, and we hope that you can use it in your future job hunt. Thank you for watching this far. That was our take on getting started for the job hunt. It's important to set yourself up for success, understand where to look and reach out, and set up a system that's sustainable.
For our next video, we'll go over how to craft your resume and optimize your LinkedIn for SEO. So feel free to stay tuned for that.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.